It's sad to say goodbye to an era, but things look very exciting for Cyberpunk. Project Orion, the current placeholder name and sequel to Cyberpunk 2077, has officially entered development, and it doesn't rule out a third-person mode either. CD Projekt Red just shared a lot of new details on the future of the franchise, their next installment, and a brand new Cyberpunk live action project, so a lot of stuff to talk about in this video, and let's dive right in. Cyberpunk moves and looks better than ever with the latest 40 series GPUs from Nvidia. Also massive thanks to Nvidia UK for hooking me up with a brand new RTX 4090, letting me take full advantage of the ray tracing overdrive mode, DLSS 3.5 and the latest ray reconstruction tech. Nvidia's deep learning supersampling had a massive performance boost with 3.5, and it's able to drastically increase your FPS even with full ray tracing on, making the most demanding scenes look and feel great. But I'm most impressed by ray reconstruction, which in Cyberpunk you can easily turn on from the graphics menu. This lets you improve ray traced image quality to insane new levels, so much so that you can clearly see all the text and graphic details from the moving billboards in the puddles below. Ray tracing also makes your game more realistic than ever with the latest overdrive mode, which brings direct illumination for every scene. So you can have thousands upon thousands of objects emitting ray traced lights, which the game fully renders, from neon signs to LED billboards, to accurately cast those colors over the entire scene, just like in real life. So totally check out the latest Nvidia RTX powered GPUs using my links down below, get the massive boost in quality and performance that you deserve. And I'll give another huge thanks to Nvidia for being the sponsors of this video. But kicking things off, CDPR held a 3-hour Investors Day livestream where they shared a lot of insight into the development of Phantom Liberty and about the future sequel currently known as Orion. And one of the questions was if CD Projekt Red would consider adding a third-person toggle in the new game, and if the developer regrets not including one in the current Cyberpunk. To which Quest director Paul Sasko, who was speaking during the presentation and who's also been announced to work on Project Orion, answered this. There are no regrets on our part. What we wanted was for Cyberpunk to have its own identity and to be noticeable as this different thing. These days, it's YouTube, Twitch, and screenshots that will sell a game, and this is the way one can use to show the identity and individuality to players. He then continued, I wanted to say that the first-person perspective is the main characteristic for Cyberpunk and its perception by the players too. It's also noticeably different from The Witcher, and this helped us craft the product identity as such. But after explaining why the team decided to go with the first-person mode in 2077, he finished off saying that for Orion, we've yet to see. So yeah, pretty interesting to see that a third-person mode isn't completely ruled out and that CDPR has yet to make a decision, and I really hope that they do take one in the direction that does bring us a camera mode toggle in the future Cyberpunk game. But I think it's pretty clear when looking at the most popular mods and many of the comments over the years that you guys left that at least a sizable portion of the player base would love such an option. In fact, one of the most recurring comments on my past Cyberpunk videos from launch day all the way until Phantom Liberty were always in the theme of when are we getting a third-person camera, even to this day. On the other hand, I also understand CDPR's perspective of wanting to give the game its own identity, which I think they really nailed with the first-person perspective. Like, there aren't many games, at least not in the AAA space, that kinda have the same feeling. And looking at recent releases like Starfield, it's hard not to notice how well this 3-year-old game's facial expressions, animations, and interactions hold up in comparison. So clearly, that decision paid off. There is also a matter of gunplay, which I think Cyberpunk again undeniably delivers on, in my opinion, making one of the most fun ways to play. There just isn't a single player game currently that scratches the same itch as Cyberpunk, for me at least, be it gunplay, melee, or hacking, with every single one of these aspects feeling very satisfying, and I just don't want these to go away, and I don't think anyone would want either. But at the same time, I also feel it's such a loss not including a third-person toggle when outside of these moments, like outside of gunplay or cutscenes, with such a rich character customization and amazing cosmetics. Sure, photo mode kinda helps with that currently, but I still think a balance could be reached to please both sides. But moving on, Cyberpunk Orion has already entered its early development stage, and right now it's in its conceptual design level. meaning that the team is still actively researching and brainstorming ideas and the broad outlines of the next project, focusing on the overall vision and direction that they will take Cyberpunk into. So quite some time until we actually get to see any game or gameplay related stuff, with most of the team of course already being moved on to the new projects and such. So in recent interviews with PC Gamer, the game's director said Phantom Liberty is the last big update, but they will still do a little something more. This could of course relate to that live action project that they also recently announced. More on that in just a little bit, but until then expect just smaller patches addressing any remaining issues or bugs, like for example the one that we had a couple of days ago. Now the question is, where will the Orion project bring us to? It's quite clear that V's story, much like David's in the Edge Runners, has been done and told, and even more so it seems that after Phantom Liberty, CDPR wants to tell somebody else's story in the sequel, or maybe even prequel. So very interesting to note is that the latest 4th edition of Cyberpunk Red is set in 2045, midway between the events of Cyberpunk 2020, the start of Corpo War, and 2077, and will also feature updated mechanics and new lore. So this acts like a prequel to 2077. The game is actually set after the 4th Corpo War, so I kind of wonder if this is also the direction that Orion brings us in. But this, as well as the setting itself, be it Night City or a completely different location, as it's not fully set in stone that Night City will be the same one in Orion 2, are just a subject of speculation, as it is too early to tell. It doesn't mean, however, that CDPR is completely done with 2077, as there's at least one more project planned, a live action in fact in collaboration with Anonymous Content. So this is an independent media company known for producing series like The True Detective and Mr. Robot, and award-winning films like The Revenant and Spotlight. So some pretty high caliber peeps working on it as we speak. As part of the collaboration, CD Projekt Red is working directly with AC Studios. The new project is in early development stage at the current time, and it is set to tell a brand new story set in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. Given how well Edge Runners has been handled, I have no doubt in my mind that they will absolutely knock this out of the park. It's only a question of, will this bring any in-game events as well? One could also hope for a content update centered around this live action release maybe at some point in time. Something similar to Edge Runners update with some extra cosmetics or some new iconic gear in there would definitely be lovely. Edge Runners did some massive numbers for Cyberpunk in September last year, so maybe this could be the next time we see an actual semi-content related update for a final Cyberpunk 2077 update. That would definitely be interesting, so keeping hopes high for that. But the sequel is of course years away. Expect Witcher 4 to be the next one to launch as part of CDPR's, well, franchise list, as the company has moved all of its next projects to Unreal Engine 5 and away from their current Red engine, which is why they stopped developing any new expansions for Cyberpunk. And this includes also Project Polaris that will kickstart the new Witcher trilogy saga, and the one that's actually the next installment for a CDPR game. So the last news we had from October last year mentioned Polaris to be at least 3 years away and being in pre-production at that time. But since then, obviously developments have been made. The studio's president back then mentioned this would be the first project to be released on the new Unreal Engine 5. So that's why there's a need for some extra work making the new technology. But once that's done and over, the second and third new Witcher trilogy games would go much smoother due to this. And of course, the same foundation being created here would maybe also transition to Cyberpunk. Noteworthy here is that CDPR has different studios working on both The Witcher and the Cyberpunk franchise in parallel, so it's not like we have to wait for the next Witcher game to come out before they move on to the Cyberpunk project. They will actually happen at the same time. So the recently created US studio in Boston is the one currently handling Project Orion for Cyberpunk, while the one back in Poland will be continuing their Witcher saga, or well, should I say a new Witcher saga, as they do plan a new trilogy, maybe one that even moves away from Geralt. So maybe the same minimum of 3 years timeline here for Cyberpunk 2 is also to be expected before we see anything of significance. I would not really expect any gameplay before 2027 at the earliest. But like I said, that bittersweet realization that is left behind by the fact that Phantom Liberty, while being so amazing, is going to be the last major content update that we get for Cyberpunk 2077. an ending to an era for sure, but CDPR definitely finishes on a high note by bringing the game to its highest concurrent players online since its launch back in 2020. So CDPR released some interesting stats about total sales and how well Phantom Liberty failed, which really just puts things into perspective. So this expansion alone sold over 3 million copies the very first week of launch, which is insane. 3 million copies, for example, for a new released game would be just an amazing metric to have. They've done this on the expansion. Even more impressive is how the game sold 25 million copies in total up to date, so it's no wonder that they plan to move on to the sequel so fast. But most of the units also sold for Phantom Liberty came from the PC platform, almost a third of them, while the rest is split between PlayStation and Xbox. Also interesting to see how close North America and Europe are in terms of demographics, almost perfectly equal in terms of the player base. Asia is also huge too for a Western game, no doubt Edgerunners contributed to that massively, but I also think that the Cyberpunk lore in general is something that almost everyone would find interesting. On a final note, we also just got patch 2.01 ready for Cyberpunk. This brought back mod support for Phantom Liberty, which was initially disabled, so you can go ahead and download mods once again, assuming that they have been updated. Also, issues with corrupted save files have been addressed among others in the new patch, but this still won't fix your already corrupted files, so yeah, that's kind of a bummer. And many more bug fixes you might have encountered since 2.0, you can totally check those in the new patch notes. But this is pretty much it with the news. Let me know down below what you think of Orion and what direction you want to see the new project in. Express your opinions now, we do have quite a lot of time until the game comes out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.